Welcome to what I believe is one of the most important conversations in sales today. And we all know that automation is supposed to be a game changer. You're able to scale outreach, book more meetings, make more revenue, become more profitable. But the problem is too many companies are drowning in automation without any good results. And so that's why we're here. This isn't about generic sales tech. It's about what really works. And so we're going to be diving into some tactics, some mistakes, the strategies that are going to turn automation from a time waster or time suck into an actual revenue driver. We've got what I think is one of the best teams for it. Joining me today, we've got Gabe Lulo, the CEO of Alleyoop. He's a sales automation evangelist and the creator of the 10 Objections framework. And then Nicole, I'm going to try it, but forgive me. It's Nicole Wazelnak. Did I get it? Win. All right. She's COO at Alleyoop and the operational mastermind that turns strategy into execution. Alyssa Rose, I got that one. She's the sales development director. That's an area that is near and dear to my heart. Spent plenty of time in that space. But she is the SDR whisperer and coaching teams to outperform at scale. And finally, we have Holly Sauer. She's the growth director, the outbound playbook architect, turning cold lists into warm meetings. So this is meant to be a no fluff, real high impact discussion. So if you guys are good with it, let's just get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it. We're ready.
Awesome. So kind of going to bring up the elephant in the room that automation is supposed to make sales easier, but in reality it can be really, really messy. I think we've all sent out the bracket first name, bracket email to everybody. And some companies, they over automate and they lose the human touch, and others don't automate enough and they're buried in manual work. And a lot of them just burn out their teams just trying to keep up, chasing whatever automation some exec saw that you have to do on LinkedIn. So I guess my first question, Gabe, is for you is what's the biggest gap between the promise of sales automation and the reality that teams face today?
Yeah, I always say there's automation and then there's automation. And I know that really doesn't say much, but if you know, right? And it's like what we look at is automation to us is like AI, right? So it's a great opportunity to help augment, help support, help provide value to the human touch, but it's not there to replace it, right? And so you have to have this healthy balance between how automation can help us scale and drive the results we're looking for versus backfiring in a big way. And then it also, looks at the exact opposite results we're looking for. So the big thing when it comes to sales development is having that RevOps team in place that knows how to use the technology and tools. You were just mentioning, how many times do we get that email that says, "Hi, your first name," right?
Right.
And then or "Hi," and then place company here, right? So if you're not using the technology the right way by having the right people who understand how to manage that technology in place, then it starts looking like you literally don't know what you're doing. Automation also starts creating this spray and pray mentality. And it really, what I always say, burns your brand. So when a client comes to us, is you never want to burn your brand by over automated outreach. You have to have it's like a recipe, right? You put too much flour into it, it's going to ruin everything. You have to have a perfect recipe that works, and that's time tested, that's experienced, that's using the right people in place, and it's knowing that you can't automate and just assume everything's going to happen. So that's my position on it. A lot to talk about, but we have a great panel here, so I'll let them jump in.
Well, yeah, let's. I'm curious, Nicole. What are the kind of the operational challenges that teams will run into with that? I mean, use the baking example. I kind of look at you as in operations, you're a bit of the baker there. So.
Absolutely. It definitely, you have to look at the misalignment between the teams, right? Ensuring that all teams are on the same page with using the automation tool, looking at what is the, clear objective at the end of it, right? What do we want to get out of this? What are we looking for? And I think sometimes it could take a turn of like, is this replacing my job? What is this designed for? So it's really important to all be on the same page of what do we want to implement? Why are we implementing it? How are we going to do that? And then tracking to make sure that it's actually doing what we're looking for, right? Not just adding on another tool to add on another tool. It really is helping aid in something. And that's really important from an operational standpoint to make sure that everybody is on the same page and really working towards that same goal.
So you're like saying that like operations, sales, marketing, business development, they all need to like work together and not
Yeah.
fight.
What an idea.
Yeah, so that is
Yeah.
the idea. And I would say, for us here, it's when we onboard a campaign, it's making sure that all of those parties are in the room and are all on the same page. And it really does help make things run a lot smoother. And so I definitely recommend it if you can.
I remember when ABM was first like the thing that everybody's talking about back in the day. And they're like, yeah, and then sales and marketing get together, and it can't be something special. It just has to be part of your flow, right? It has to be part of what you're doing. Get everybody together on the same page, going in the same direction. Yeah. Well, with automation getting smarter, I know with SDRs, they're always trying to push for more bandwidth. How do I make more calls? How do I send more emails? But Nicole, how do they balance that personalization with efficiency?
Yeah, that's a greap question. So we're
sorry, I was going to send that to Alyssa.
I was going to say, if you want me to take it, I will, but I think Alyssa will take this one.
Apologies.
That's why we can edit it.
Bracket first name.
No worries. I'm so happy to jump in. It's interesting, Stephen, that you brought up sales and marketing needing to work together. Because when I think about email automation, I think that is totally under marketing's function. And the reason I say that is because I would say that myself and probably everyone else in this room gets no less than 50 cold emails a day. And I think that we all have a lot on our plate just to do our jobs every day. We don't have time to read through those emails. But will I maybe recognize the domain name when I'm going through to delete, when I get that cold call and then it keeps me on the phone? Yes, it's possible. So I think email is a really great introduction to that sales call that's coming. But I would not, if I were an SDR, spend a ton of my time personalizing email outreach. I would be personalizing phone outreach, because at the end of the day, you need that human to human connection in order to go ahead and get a deal done. I don't know that any sales cycle has successfully started from a response to a cold email. I know that emails happen a lot during the sales cycle, but I think the deal starts at the cold call.
It's interesting. I mean, how many times you've received an email that said, hey, you went to XYZ University and your mascot's this, therefore this. And it's like, great, you spent, 15 seconds on my LinkedIn or you brought in data. But Holly, what are some ways that you can make that outreach feel more human? Because ultimately it is. It's about, to Alyssa's point, it's about people connecting. That's what business is.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, piggybacking off of what Alyssa said around us all just being exhausted with a million emails in our inbox, is to choose your ICP more carefully and how your value proposition is presented with that automation. If marketing titles receive your product in this way and find this value in it, make sure that you're giving them something valuable and sending those emails in a sparingly way. Curating that ideal customer profile in advance is going to make that automation more meaningful. And then, like Alyssa said, using personalization on the phone channel is going to reiterate that same message that you had in that email when it did land in the inbox.
So just to follow up on that, Holly, when we're focusing on outreach, and personalizing that outreach, what is it that reps or leadership should tell reps to focus on? I mean, I really don't care that my college mascot was the red-tailed hawk. It's like...
I totally get it, Stephen. I think what we really like to do here at Alleyoop is think about personification rather than personalization. Why does that persona, as a buy decision maker, care about your value proposition? It might be different for the CFO compared to the CMO. So if you can personify that message, lean into the pain points that they have in their day-to-day role and tell them how you can actually help solve for that pain with your solution, that's where you're going to get further, is that personification versus the personalization of what school did they go to. We all can do that.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, to that point, though, Alyssa, do you have any kind of real world examples of SDRs, able to do that in their outreach?
Tons. We do it every single day here. And I think what's really special about the work that we do at Alleyoop is that there is training from the second you get in the door, and it never stops. So Gabe might say something on a company-wide huddle that resonates with an SDR. We have an SDR here. Can I name names? Is that okay?
Go for it. Sure.
We have an SDR here named Bryce, who is like the most diligent note taker and who hangs on every single word that is said in a company meeting and finds a way to incorporate what Gabe has taught the week before on his next call every single time. And Bryce, just as an example, has a 90% hold rate on the meetings that he schedules.
Wow.
And he's scheduling with massive brands like Microsoft and like Target and Walmart. So to get a 90% show rate from that just comes from the constant tutelage and training that we're getting from Gabe and Nicole week after week. So that the real world examples are happening on every call.
You know, part of what we're talking about here, though, is that automation, right? So, Gabe, how do we leverage, let's just what everybody's talking about in the last year, AI, to humanize some of our automation as well?
Yeah, the way we're using AI is across the board, right? So we're using it in our connection rates with our automated dialer. So we have a dialer that actually uses AI to determine, okay, who's the right person to talk to? When are they going to be picking up the phone? When's the best time to reach them? And they're looking at analytics across all of their clients to determine, okay, how can we increase connection rates? So AI is doing that in a big way. To Alyssa's point, training is huge too, role playing, making sure that when we're actually getting those reps really, really good, how are they getting good? Is they're using AI tools to role play and give them battle cards to actually jump in and say, we have actual live calls being transcribed and recorded. And then we have AI tools telling them, hey, listen, they just said this, so mention that, or they just said this and mention that. So it's preparing the reps in real time using AI automation in live calls. And then, of course, data enrichment. We're using AI a lot in research and in data enrichment to make sure that our ICP is locked in. And how can we make sure that our lists are accurate and best in class? So those are just 3 ways we're using AI today. But again, as a support of the human function as opposed to replacing it is how we've been using it.
Yeah. I think that support role and using it as a tool, right? It's right. The hammer doesn't build the house. The builder uses the hammer to build the house. It's a tool. Nicole, for you, especially for startups and companies that are scaling up, how do you implement this automation without sacrificing lead quality or even burning out all your teams?
Absolutely. So I think, so what we've all touched on here, I think there's ways to implement automation and there's ways to use that automation to look at outcomes, right? So we just implemented a tool that takes all of our close loss deals and goes through it, the automation in the background to say like, hey, this is where you could have done something differently. This is where something was said on your live call that the rep took it this way where they should have taken it that way. And it could have been implemented differently there. And I think when you look at all of these companies who are, in that early stage, these learnings are so important. Everything you could take out of a closed loss, whether it's I didn't win the meeting on that cold call, or it got to a demo stage and we lost it at that point. Everything you can learn from that, I think, is so important. And so to use automation in that way to say, hey, let's see what we can to learn from these things and implement further. I think new companies starting up, that's where you have to start with it.
It's interesting that you mentioned closed loss. It's something that I've really been focusing on here because I think there's, in a lot of ways, more that you can learn from a closed loss than than a win, right? Because a win, it may be because you have amazing reps. It could be that you have amazing software. It could be something completely different. But the closed loss, you're going to get a real good signal there on what and why and yeah.
Absolutely. And if you look at, our reps that are cold calling day in and day out, we look at, okay, out of all the conversations they had, which ones didn't they win? There was no lead created out of it. And then why? What did they hear on that call that they didn't overcome? Was it timing? Was it budget? All of these things are so important for us to pull out to say, hey, maybe we need to revisit a script or revisit how we're messaging something because this is where we're getting that no and being turned down. And so I think the closed loss is definitely where new companies should start if they want to and really learn as much as they can.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of dovetail. Yeah. This is where our clients really rely on us being in the front of the lines. Companies come to us because they want appointments, and of course, they also want revenue, right, from those appointments. But at the end of the day, the clients that come to us and say, okay, it's not just revenue we need. Do we have product market fit? Is our pricing aligned? Is the features we're telling the marketplace right now really that competitive to our big competitors are trying to go after? What does that competitive landscape look like? Who are the ones that they're gravitating to that we should be really thinking about how we can factor in our features, our development, our program, our software to compete in that? No one knows that better than the people in the front of the lines qualifying the leads and talking to the prospects and literally understanding and taking the temperature of the marketplace. So when Holly's talking as the growth director to a client, a prospect, we have to really understand, like, yes, we want to drive appointments to drive revenue, but how about all this data and all these insights that we're capturing? And then we've seen companies literally metamorphosize their entire product or change their entire business model or pivot into a totally new vertical, all because of what we're telling them the market is telling us. So it's really, really important.
Yeah, it's interesting that they play such a crucial role. I know we get a lot of information from that here, but how rarely are those, in business as a whole, are they included in those conversations? And Holly, to kind of to shift you a little bit, using all this great data that we've got, this intelligence that we have, both automated and then the human intelligence, and talking to our frontline people. Talk to me a little bit about building out these smart workflows and how we bring that to our teams in automation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when a new prospect comes to me and we begin that journey of, hey, how can Alleyoop help you specifically? We start looking at, number one, the goals for their outcomes. And then we go into all the data that we have here at Alleyoop from past clients, and we look at how we helped a similar client in the past. How we reached out to that ideal customer profile before, and we'll plug and play the tools, the automation, the strategies, and the right channels for that outreach to really lean into. So we are at a huge advantage onboarding any new client because we have so much of that data in the past. Some people have to learn this on their own, and those tools are out there if you want to start building that from the ground up. The challenge is just that it usually takes a long time to get that stuff working when you're not using the right tools.
I think one of the big barriers that companies face when it comes to any of these really cool leaps forward in automation are some of the cultural, the technical, the strategic, those strategic barriers. So I guess the question, and Nicole, with you, is like, what holds companies back from embracing that automation?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's examples for all of them, right? When you look at it, if you look at it from a cultural standpoint, right, it's that resistance to change, right? Is this going to replace me? What is this going to turn into? And I think the solution to that is really educating your team on this is not a replacement. This is to help you enhance your job. And this is what it's built for, right? Misalignment of teams, one wanting it to do one thing, one wanting it to do another, not allowing it to communicate. So making sure, all parties involved in the automation are on the same page with what we're looking for. From a technical standpoint, right, the integrations, the adoption, the users being able to use it the right way, I think you start to face those things. But I think with training and testing everything that you're implementing, I think you can really overcome those. And then strategically, it's like, the lack of clear objective, right? Like, what does the company really want this to do? And what is our end goal? And I think really defining those specific goals with your team members when you're implementing something like this can really help you overcome these barriers. But I think they're normal. I think everybody's going to go through it when you start to adopt. It's like anything, right? When you get a new CRM, when you get a new this, it's just like that. It's really just making sure that your team is trained. You're all on the same page with what we're looking for and implementing it and using it the right way.
So Alyssa, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'd add on to Nicole's, like we have a lot of competition out there that's not very good at SDRing, if you will. But there's a ton of automation tools that are not good at being automation tools. So I think a big barrier is just that people have been burned by these things in the past. They bought something. It was too hard to implement. It was too hard to use. It didn't get results. So people are just like, this is just a 1 in 1 million of these tools I might use. Let's avoid the automation completely.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I know, we've seen it. Like, you get this kind of old grizzled sales team in a manufacturing space, and like, I tried this back in 1995, and it didn't work then, so it's not going to work now. Well, I think things have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
But Alyssa, like with frontline reps, I mean, you don't get more frontline than SDRs.
Yeah.
So how do you implement and adjust with them? Because they see it. The impact, if it's not going right, it hits them fast, and so they can be pretty tentative sometimes. On the other hand, but how do you manage that?
Talking. I know that's going to sound crazy, and I know that everything that I speak about has a common theme, but it's human to human connection and talking, right? I am checking in on my reps all day. What's working? What's not? My background, excuse my
talking. Shocking.
My background is in tech, right? My entire career was in the SaaS space before I came to Alleyoop, and it's innovate or die, right? Every organization, you have to innovate or you're going to die. And so our team knows at every turn, we're going to have to innovate and we're going to have to be willing to, as Gabe says, do hard things, tackle a new technology, see if it works for us. If we see a decrease in production, you can bet that our VP of technology, Javier, is going to go back to that technology provider and call them out on the fact that there is a dip in our output. But if things are going well, that's the greatest thing ever for a sales floor, right? When something comes along that enhances the production of a team and everyone is rowing in the same direction and getting massive results at the same time, that's how you build a culture that is unstoppable. And the tools just enhance the culture at that point.
Yeah, that buzz when you introduce something new to the team and technology or even technique, that's when it gets fun out there. Everybody's excited and they want to hit the phone harder. Gabe, on the other hand, though, like, up the chain a little bit, you also have to deal with get a leadership buy-in when you have like a sales manager or someone who's needs to get their leadership to buy into this new idea. One, how do you get leadership buy-in? And two, how do you manage change management? You're muted, Gabe.
I promise I said something good.
Best thing you ever said.
I can't even think about it now. I forgot. No, I always say this, it's the old adage, people fear what they don't understand, right? And we hear it all the time in all the Marvel and DC shows. But at the end of the day, maybe the executive team doesn't understand it. We have to explain it to them in ways of results and examples, right? They want to see, and by the way, the CFO is more involved in these decisions than ever before, right? Especially in tech decisions or in the technology and investments. Like usually the CFO is really relying on others to make those decisions. Now we see the CFO being brought into these conversations more than ever before. And maybe they're not the most tech savvy person, or maybe the entrepreneur, the CEO is not aligned on the tech side, or maybe they're very tech savvy. So when it comes to getting the buy-in, it really is about A/B testing and showing the results. And that's where we would like to see it happen. So we want to show, hey, this is what we do now, and this is what we've done. Here are the differences. And we show those A/B test results all the time to our clients' leadership so they can get that buy-in and make those decisions with results. It's like data-driven decisions is how we operate as a company and how we showcase and influence our clients to make the decisions they need to make to invest in the things we're doing for them. So that's how we do it.
Great. Yeah, it's having would you say goals, like, hey, this is what we're expecting to have happen, so then you can go ahead and measure it. And I know it sounds like Alyssa saying, hey, it's about talking, but she's exactly right. And I think is that kind of what you're saying? Is like, hey, have measurable goals that you can take to the CFO and say, this is what it's supposed to do. This is fail. This is pass.
Exactly. And we show them the outcomes that we're expecting. We show if we exceeded those outcomes, why we did or why we didn't. And then we show them if we don't do it that way. I mean, a lot of tech partners, a lot of automation tools, they're allowing trials, they're allowing opportunities to showcase it and to give it a test drive. And so we do that. We take that very, very seriously. And then we can show those results and show a proof of concept and go from there.
Yeah, I think I love that kind of that proof and building your way up to the full thing. Let them get buy-in along the way. One of the issues that I see a lot, and I have yet to work for or see a company who says, hey, guess what? Our CRM, our data is the cleanest, best ever. It's pristine. Everybody is like, we're in the middle of cleaning up our CRM data, right? So your automation really is only as good as the data that fuels it. And so I guess how do we maintain clean, high quality data? And I guess what are the consequences when you don't? So Nicole, this is kind of, I'm going to throw this to you. That's kind of your world there.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we preach all the time, like everything you have to put into your tools, what you want to come out of it. Right. So for our CRM, like you have to implement and put all of your notes inside of it so that if you want to use automation, it has the ability to learn out of it, right? You can't just say, oh, here's our CRM. There's no notes inside of our deals that are lost and good luck using it. So I think it's really important to, again, be all on the same page with your team. I need you to be diligent about taking your notes. I need you to put everything inside of our systems so that we can pull that data out of it the best we can. But data is never 100%. Humans are never 100%. But I think it's just really important to be on top of your notes, detailing everything out so that as these tools and technology come in to help aid in whether it's the sales process, the cold calling, whatever it may be, that the data is there and it's accurate so that we can learn from it as much as we can.
Yeah, I remember when I was my first sales gig, all cubicles and stuff, we printed out signs, and in everyone's desk, it says, if it's not in Salesforce, it does not exist. Remember that one?
Okay. I was going to say, like, a comment I was going to make was, if you ask anybody who has worked for me ever, they say, if I say if it's not in Salesforce, they'll be like, it doesn't exist. And it's I had reps who were like, yeah, I closed this deal. I'm like, no, you didn't. Yeah, I did. I just no, you didn't. Right? It's like my kids when I say, hey, choices have consequences. The same thing.
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. Thanks, Dad. Yeah, exactly. So it's the same thing, but garbage in, garbage out, right? It's the same thing that Nicole is saying. But to dovetail, data providers, you got your sales intos, your Zoom infos, your Apollos. Like, there's a lot of API connections that you can tie right into your CRM that allows enrichment to happen, automatically, right? So the reality is being able to connect those tools, making sure you have the IT teams manage that to make sure everything's connected. So we have best in class data that's most current, most updated, and you can use automation to make that happen. So we're calling the right number at the right time because it automated, an enrichment tool each and every single night. We have that set up here, but some people don't even know it exists, and some others don't even know how to set it up. So those are some other things that I think are super important.
100%. You got it. I mean, it's got to be there, and it's got to have those guardrails. And that there's so many good data sources out there. There's no excuse. But I was joking a little bit about consequences. But Alyssa, love to get kind of your perspective on, like, what are the consequences of bad data hygiene and bad data that you guys see?
That you're going to get in a lot of trouble. No, the consequence,
not just on the individual level, but on the broader level as well.
Totally. You don't take notes on every single thing that happened on that cold call. You are simply setting yourself up to fail on the following call. We all know it takes an average of 6 touch points over the phone to get someone to book a meeting with you. If you do not remember exactly what they said, and by the way, how would you remember if you didn't take notes? If you cannot recall exactly what their prior objection was, exactly what their pain points are, exactly what solution they're trying to get towards at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, you're going to sound like a fool, and nobody is going to book a meeting with you. And all you have in this business is your authenticity and your sense of being trustworthy. That's all you have in the game of sales. So if you don't come prepared, and that's by taking diligent notes into every cold call, not only will you fail, you will make yourself sound stupid. And that in turn makes the organization you're calling for sound stupid. And we don't tolerate that here. So everyone takes pretty impeccable notes, I would say.
Yeah, you might have a sales interaction. It takes a couple months, and you're not going to remember exactly what happened on that first call. And there's so many, in addition to all the tools out there, there are these like pens and paper they came out with that are like awesome with using too, that you can take notes on to supplement them. So yeah, there's no excuse there. I'm glad that someone else is beating that drum as well. So.
Yeah.
So if we look forward, we're looking beyond 2025, which is, I know, a weird thing to say here in February, but what are the trends, the technologies that will define the next generation of automation relationship management? Gabe, you're the evangelist there, so we'll start with you there.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing huge things coming out of companies like Clay when it comes to data enrichment and automation. So we're doing more of what we just talked about. We're seeing, amazing AI tools giving us playbooks that are written, scripts that have been able to created, research that's been able to be done. So we know exactly who we're calling and why. We're obviously using a lot of AI. Zoom Info just came out with an amazing tool where they can actually use their co-pilot to really, on the AE side, know what they need to be doing in the sales cycle and in the sales process. I really see AI also as an opportunity to really train people. The SDR function itself is 10, 12 years old. A decade ago, everyone was hiring people that were bartenders coming out of college, giving them a list and say, go get them, kid. Now it's, you need to be a really, like, it's an elevated role. I still call it entry level when it comes to getting in the industry or getting in the tech sales space, but entry level when it comes to experience and know-how and understanding and tech savviness and communication skills, it's not that anymore. And so that technology is going to allow for all of those things to be happening more effectively in the future, post 2025.
There's such great ways to leverage, AI and things to take advantage of that. I'll mention this really quickly. I had a rep who just started with me and he was terrified to get on that first call. He was go get him, but he's like, what if I screw up? I really want to do well. No problem. I took this person's LinkedIn profile, uploaded into OpenAI. I'd already had trained it on all our documents, how to run a call. I put a bunch of stuff that this prospect had written on there. And I said, okay, OpenAI, you are this persona. Ethan's going to hop on and he's going to say hello and run a discovery call. You take on this persona. And what I want you to do is take notes of what he says. At the very end, give me a score. Just coach him. What did he do well? What did he do right? And I didn't, Alyssa, you'll be pleased to know I didn't leave it at that, but I used that as a tool in my conversation with him to have those discussions and talk further. Interesting thing was how close his AI phone call was to the actual one he had. That's what was amazing.
It is amazing. I mean, I always say practice, drill, rehearse, right? And so you could do human role plays all the time. Alyssa is the best at it. But when you have a very large team like hers, you can't be everywhere all the time. So when you're able to use AI in your case to do that practice, drill, rehearse, it's like doing that cardio before you work out, right? We recommend, hey, before you get on the phone call and to curb that call reluctance that your colleague Ethan was having, you got to say, listen, go out and do 50 reps with the AI tool, sharpen your axe, you know what I mean? Get rocking and rolling, clear your throat, get your tools sharp, get your objections down. And then when you jump in the batter's box, it's easy to swing the bat. And that's where we're really using AI to help, again, the human element of getting people to be really lethal when they're on the phones and of course when they're communicating through messages.
Yeah.
It can really kind of take away that fear of failure, right?
Yeah.
If you fail with the chat bot, it's a lot easier on your ego than blowing up an actual call.
Yeah, 100%.
So Holly, like looking forward as well, like what do you see coming, in terms of, how automation and all this is going to affect, team structure and sales teams overall?
Well, look, I'm never one to predict the future. In high school, I thought that wearing ties for belts was going to be a really big thing for a while. One thing is for sure, it's going to be exciting no matter what. I do, and we talk about it a lot here at Alleyoop. The more automation we do see, the more things that are automated, the human element is going to stand out on the flip side of that. So I think we're never going to lose sight of actually having human conversations, like, over a phone channel. Well, at least we hope. I think that's just going to be important. People will be missing it a lot more. Once those robots start dialing us every day, it'll be really unique to get that real person having a chat. So I guess that's what I have to say about looking towards the future.
Nicole, what about in terms of automation and using that in revenue growth going forward?
Yeah, I would say, from a revenue growth standpoint, and I know I've talked about this a few times on this, but for us, and I see a lot of companies going in that direction, is really pulling out where was revenue missed and finding that through automation, right? Or where did we lose revenue that we could have, kept on? I think that will be a huge part of it. And looking at our closed loss deals of, where did that go wrong? I think that's going to be a huge revenue grab there. And I think it also can be something where our systems can start to learn, like, where do you do really well and where can you double down? Where is there more opportunity to go back into some of these accounts and add to it? And so I think from an automation standpoint, I definitely think there's going to be more and more tools coming out to help aid in finding revenue that you could have very easily in-house, and also where did you lose and why did you lose it, and prevent it from happening again.
Absolutely. Alyssa, just, going forward, automation and frontline sales teams, where are you seeing it going?
Together. They're going to grow together. So sales reps will continue to automate things that they do. David mentioned it before, but like a live role play where you're automating their objection handling with technology, that's going to grow together. But again, the authenticity of a human being is so important that we will continue to use every advancement in technology to augment and to support the function of our role as is now. But we will constantly be growing with it as human beings, not separating ourselves from it.
It's almost like you're using the automation to do the stuff that, let it do it. And so you can focus on that human touch.
Exactly.
Like, write a note, send them a note, those things that are, person to person, outreach. And I guess.
Can I just jump in? It's interesting
because
there's opportunities all the time that we're being asked, even on the phone, if we're AI. And it's almost like we get dismissed, right? It's almost like there's this defense mechanism up because the trust factor isn't there yet because it's not been happening long enough, right? So it's almost like people are offended that they're using AI to be reached because we're not putting in the hard work to make it happen. And it's just this weird feeling. It's like, oh, and it's like people are trying to tell, like they're not even talking about what we're actually saying. They're trying to just figure out if it's AI or not AI in emails. Like, so I've been doing a lot of things, literally just putting it out there saying, hey, just to let you know, this is not AI. Hey, just to let you know, like I'm a real person. Like making a video or sending a picture. Hey, this is me. I'm a real person. Just putting that there so they feel VIP, so they feel important. And so sometimes that's the way to actually cut through the noise.
Well, I think that takes me to kind of one of my last questions here, which is, let's just go around. Like, what is the number one piece of advice for companies trying to get automation right this year? Gabe, we'll start with you.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Unless that was your advice there. So
no, I think the number one. Well, it's a very different question. So I was gonna say, like, if kind of like how I started the call, right? If you're going to take automation and technology into it, what I always say, don't have it be a Jenga stack, right? We always hear about the tech stack, right? Don't have it be a Jenga stack where you're just buying technology because it sounds like a good idea. And then it just is shelved somewhere. And then all of a sudden you're spending all this money on technology and you don't even know why. So if you're going to take it on, invest in it, find people who are good at implementing it, find people who are good at knowing it, find people who are outside agencies who can actually make sure that it's working for you, and really go through that trial process, that proof of concept process, to make sure that it's the right investment. And because I'm seeing way too many companies right now just buying tech because tech is cool, and then it just sits there on a shelf, very, very expensive shelf, sucking money out every month. So those are the ways that I would look at from a macro level.
Holly, what advice would you give this year?
Yeah, gosh, maybe I have to do a shameless plug here. Don't try to do it
Please.
alone.
Yeah.
Don't try to do it alone. A great thing about a partner like Alleyoop is when you come to us, especially for your outbound function, you get to learn alongside us. You can come to us, outsource this function for 6 months and see what really works before you go out and spend X amount of money and sign a 2-year contract with a tech stack. Come try it with us. Let's find a solution that works for you, or another provider, but don't do it alone. There's too many options out there, both when it comes to automation and resources for this. So I think there's ways that you can dip your toe in the water without big commits and wasting a lot of money for things that won't work.
Yeah. Alyssa, what would you?
Sure. So I will go off of what Gabe said. People love to buy tech because it's cool and because it's sexy. But at the end of the day, there are 2 questions you want to ask yourself. Is this product going to save me or my team time? And is this product going to make me money? And put salespeople through the ringer to prove those concepts to you. Put them through the ringer, because if they know their product, if they stand by their product, and there is a real fit for your business, they're going to work with you to find it. And if they're just BSing you because they want a sale, you're going to feel it really quickly if you know the right questions to ask. So the 2 things I would just focused on is this saving me time and is this making me money? And then make that salesperson work for it.
Yeah. I as a salesperson at first, it's like, but like, that's exactly the right thing. It's the right question. That's the question. I know as having run teams, like if I'm being put through the ringer, this is good. This is good. I'm fully confident in what we do. You guys are confident in what you like. Let's do it.
Talk about it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Speak about it.
Yeah. Nicole, what about you? What advice do you have?
3 things I would say is test everything before you implement it. make sure it's going to work, make sure it's what you want, make sure it has all the tools and different nuances inside of it that you're actually looking for. So test it before full on making the huge shift where at some point you look back like, why did we do this? Because it is usually a lift on your team's side. So test everything would be my number one. Number two would say, make sure your team is on the same page. Make sure you have the buy-in from the team. Every time I bring something in-house, my first thing is to go to my team and say, is this going to help you? Is this something that you're interested in? And I won't say yes until I have that buy-in. So make sure your team is on the same page. And then three, really take the time to train your team and implement it the right way. It may be a lift up front, but taking shortcuts, not doing that, at the end of the day, it won't be the lift that you're looking for. So I think if you follow those things of testing it, make sure your team is on the same page, and training and implementing it the right way, I think you'll be happy with your decision.
You guys have been great. I do want to know, Gabe, or who maybe it's Alyssa, I don't know. Where would fitting Alleyoop in, kind of building off of Holly's shameless plug here, but where would we put Alleyoop in our motion, and where can you help people with this overall?
Yeah, there's really two types of companies that we work with, and they're the exact opposite of each other, ironically. And what I mean by that is companies that have tried it, right? Try to build an in-house SDR function. It's maybe become too expensive. Maybe it's broken. Maybe it's not working. Maybe it's not what they thought it was going to be. And they really need help to fix it, save costs, do it the right way. So they come to us to really rebuild and have a fresh set of eyes in our experience to do that. And then the exact opposite, which is the other type of company, they've never done it before. They have no idea what they're doing. They may be a successful company that their AEs were doing all the prospecting and they have a split desk, or they are a brand new startup and they're trying to get off the ground. And so we have to literally build it from scratch. And those are the two types of businesses that we help. And that's definitely something that we can absolutely talk about. So we're all on LinkedIn, all four of us. So connect with us. We'll get you to the right people and love to chat with you about it.
Great. And if they want more information, reach out to LinkedIn. I know I reached out to Gabe yesterday saying, hey, and Holly, I reached out to all of you yesterday, and real fast to respond. Also, what website do they go to for information about you guys as well?
Alleyoop.io. We have a calendar on there. You can pick a time to meet with us. It'll go right into our inbox, and you can book a time very easily. Like you said, we're hyper responsive. It's a pet peeve of ours. We're in the people business. We're a sales agency, so we know that hyper responsiveness is quintessential to success. And so we are very much that way. And so connect with each one of us individually too. I'd love to help you out.
Hey, I appreciate all of your time. This was great, and look forward to talking to you guys again here in the future. And to everybody watching, enjoy the RevTech Summit, and looking forward to more great content. Thanks.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Ron.
Bye.